So, some number of years ago, I came up with the notion that I wanted to have a way of closing my emails and notes to people that would be authentic and express the truth of who I was and what I was claiming in the relationship with them. And what I came up with was Love Always. And that's the title of the talk today, is Love Always. And I went back through my emails, and it turns out that I didn't write down when I thought of this, but I have been using that since 2003. And my email signature of Love Always is not in the automatic signature that gets put onto the end of stuff automatically. It is something that I need to manually do every time myself. So when an email says Love Always, comma, Bill, it's because I specifically put that in there. And the reason is that I want it to be intentional about it. I didn't want this to be an automatic sort of, when somebody says, how are you, you say, fine. It's like, no, when I said love always, I want it to mean love always. And there are times when I'm sending a business email where I don't include love always, and I'm aware of that. I'm aware that I am not saying love always in a particular context. And sometimes there is somebody who I am in disagreement with, and they don't get a love always either. And it is obvious and apparent to me when I'm doing that. Now I gotta admit, I wanted to make it a little bit easier for myself, so I have an auto expander. So when I type LA space or LA comma, it expands it into Love Always, which worked just fine for me until I went to work as the administrator for the affiliated New Thought Network, where the home office is in La Mesa, California. So now I have to auto uncorrect that to make that work properly. But love always for me is a reminder that there is only love. There is only love. Love always. And it was the way that I came to love always was, it means a lot of different things. There's a bunch of subtext that can be inside of love always, and one of them is that love is not always obvious. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it's really obvious. Oh, it's a happy, warm summer afternoon with everybody being peaceful and the kids running in the sprinkler, and it's really easy to see love on a day like that. Or a beautiful spring day where the flowers are blossoming. And there's only love. There is always love. Even in the middle of a storm, even in the middle of challenge and difficulty, even when it doesn't look like love, and you're not going to look at that and say, oh, look, it's love. It must be love unfolding. I know that's what must be happening because that's all there is. It's a reminder for me that, yeah, this is also love. And there are a couple of statements about love. One of my favorites is from M. Scott Peck. His definition of love from Road Less Traveled is sort of dry and seems a little bit intellectual and distant. He says that love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. And he goes on to explain that it's all about intentionality. It's about desiring to create that experience, and it's also the sort of thing that's going to continue to unfold in the future. Nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth, because we're never done growing spiritually. As I've said, that we're all climbing the mountain of spirituality, and the top of the mountain is enlightenment, and very few of us are going to reach the top of the mountain. And even when we do, we're not going to feel like we've reached the top of the mountain, because there's always, from that perspective, some way of experiencing that even more deeply. So perhaps love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Love always. Am I doing something now to nurture my own spiritual growth? Am I doing something now to nurture somebody else's spiritual growth? And it doesn't always have to be pious or solemn. It doesn't need to be sitting on a purple meditation pillow. Love always means whatever it is that we're doing. Casually meeting somebody on the sidewalk, or walking the dog, or shopping for groceries. Is there a possibility to be that presence of love during those situations as well? There's a phrase that I'd like to use in the wedding ceremonies that I do. I have a lot of fun doing weddings. In fact, my website is ilovedoingweddings.com. And I found myself doing a wedding last week. And I always enjoy when the couple chooses the version of the ceremony that has this quote in it, which is that love does not consist in gazing at each other, but looking outward together in the same direction. So yeah, we can stare into each other's eyes and be lovey-dovey, and that's that warm feeling of love, and that's good. And we can also, together, focus our eyes outward and say, this is where we are, this is what we wish to see. As we're looking at the world instead of just at each other, we can be love. We can be that presence of love. We can know that there is only love, and let that presence come into being through and for and as us. Love is about relationships. It's about connecting with other people. And noting that this fall marks 40 years since Dean and I met each other. And we've had the usual challenges and delights along the way. And one of the things that I learned partway through there is something called the 5 love languages. And this is a notion that was introduced by Gary Chapman. And he says that people experience love in different ways. So when I am feeling loved, it's because somebody is treating me in a particular way, and somebody else is feeling loved is because somebody's treating them in a particular way. And the benefit and the challenge of that is that it's really easy, if we understand what somebody's love language is, to speak that love language and to fill them and nurture them and take care of them in a way that's going to be really uplifting for them. The downside of that is we all have our own love language, and we have the built-in assumption that everybody else speaks the same love language that we do. So if I have a particular thing that makes me feel loved, and I'm trying to do that with my beloved, my wife, my kid, my whoever it is that I'm in a relationship with, if that's not the way that they feel love, it's not going to land on them right. So I'll tell you briefly what they are. The first of the 5 love languages is acts of service. Actions speak louder than words. It's about doing something nice for somebody else, doing something loving, being that presence. And it doesn't need to be something, you don't need to show up with roses and, a violin player. It's about being present, being in service, being helpful to somebody else. And the people who have that as their love language, when that happens, they feel loved. And if you're in relationship to somebody who feels loved when there's an act of service, then perform an act of service. Do something that they will appreciate, that will bring something into their life, which will help them and also make them feel loved. The second one is receiving gifts. For some people, receiving a heartfelt gift is what makes them feel the most love. I got this, I saw this, I thought of you, and I'd like you to have it. And it can be something, it can be a Bentley, or it can be a pen, or it can be a card, or even, send somebody an internet meme. Give them a gift. I was thinking about you and I want to share this with you. Another one is quality time. It's about giving the other person your undivided attention. And by the way, that's a big one for me. I love it when people are completely present with me and we get to spend undivided time without them being distracted by something else or scrolling on their phone. For other people, it's words of affirmation. To be told that whatever they're doing is resonating and landing and it feels uplifting. And by the way, as we're going through these, if there are any that feel like they resonate, well, yeah, that's how you feel love. Well, that's how you feel love. That might not be how other people necessarily feel love. And it's not that one is better than the other, but understanding where we're coming from and understanding where the person who we're in a relationship is coming from can be hugely powerful. It is hugely powerful to understand somebody's love language. And the last one that he has is physical touch. And this is not about sex. This is about being present for somebody else, an appropriate physical touch. It can be a hug, it can be touching somebody on the shoulder, it can be holding hands, it can be close proximity. It is about that physical presence for each other. And everybody has more than one. There's one that's predominant, sometimes there's another one that's secondary. And it's really interesting to go through the exercises that Gary Chapman gives you and find out what your love language is. Because a lot of us know, a lot of us either intuitively or because we've been thinking about this for a while know what our love language is. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes it comes as, really? Wow, that's a surprise. And the biggest surprise is when we find out that other people, especially people we are in relationship with, have a different love language. That we have been speaking to them in heartfelt words in a language they do not understand. Somebody's speaking to me in Portuguese, I can tell that they're loving, but I can't for the life of me tell what they're saying. And that doesn't have anything to do with them. They're saying it, and I'm not getting it. So when I say love always, it's not a uniform thing. It's not the same thing for everybody. Love always is what love means to me as the person who's loving, and what it means to the person who is receiving it. What does that love look like? And the other important thing that I've learned along the way is that, and something that we teach in practitioner class a lot when we're working with other people and helping them through their spiritual challenges, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. It is impossible for me to be loving if I'm not feeling loved. If I am not feeling that love internally, then if I try and give it out, it's going to come out as either flat, inadequate, or phony. So what I need to do is remind myself all the time that there is always love, there is only love, everything is love, and I am that love unfolding. And it's only when I'm feeling that, when I'm knowing that, when I'm connecting with that, that I can love somebody else. As I was thinking about this, I was reminded of a wonderful, simple little ditty song that Ricky Byers wrote. By the way, Ricky is going to be the music director at the Anton Retreat next fall. Plug. If you'd like to go and see her and spend a week at Unity Village, it's going to be awesome. Registration is open now. But that's not why I brought that up. The little ditty that she wrote is, I love myself so much. And you sing that. I love myself so much that I can love you so much, that you can love you so much, that you can start loving me. And the idea behind that is not pouring from an empty cup. And it seems so conceited. I love myself so much. Yeah, fine, right. No, I love myself so much that I can love you so much. I'm filling myself up so I can feel love for you. And when you're feeling the love, then you can love yourself, and that way you can share it and we can pass it along. We can love it forward. I love myself so much that I can love you so much, that you can love you so much, that you can start loving me. It's not greedy. It's about bringing more love into the world. It's about being the love you wish to have. It is about being that presence. A lot of times when I'm working with somebody who's looking for a relationship, and, there's nobody out there for me, and I can't have this. This is not possible. I'm never going to have anybody, etc., etc., etc. It's like, well, okay. Is there room in your life for love? Is there room in your heart for love? Well, sure there is. Okay, what are you doing to be love? How are you expressing love? How are you shining that bright light of love? If there's somebody, a loving partner out there looking for you, how are they going to find you? Is it because you're going to be sitting at home on the internet, doom scrolling and being unhappy? No, maybe you have to do something a little bit happy. Maybe you need to change your mindset to be that bright light of love that you are, to let that light shine so that the person who's looking for you can find you. And I'm not going to tell the story about Max again, but it's one of my favorites. Love is all there is. And what that means is that whether you're feeling it or not, you are that bright light of divine love, right here, right now, and all the time. Love always. And yeah, that's aspirational. Do I love always? Well, I'd like to. Sometimes, nope. Have somebody cut me off in traffic, and the first word that comes to mind is usually not love. But that's me, and I own that, and I understand it. But love always is a grounding practice. To bring ourselves back to the reminder that there is only love. Because when we remember that there is only love and we anchor ourselves into that, we can let everything that's unlike that pass away. Love always can be a grounding practice for us. It could also be an intention. I'm not feeling love right now. I know that it's there. I know that it's possible. So I'm going to claim love always, and I'm going to be love to the extent that I can, with the intention that I'm going to create and invite more of that into my world. Love always. And it's also a reminder. It is a reminder that there is the possibility for love unfolding in this moment, and in this moment, and in this moment. That love always means that regardless who's standing in front of me, whether it's somebody who I love and I have loved forever and I completely agree with, we are on the same page with everything, or if it's somebody who I cannot for the life of me understand how they could believe or think or say the things that they've been saying, the awareness that there is a bright light of divine love shining right now as them, and I get to look for it. And because when we do that and we find it, the love is unfolding and the light is shining even more brightly through all of that. Guy was on the radio with, had a comedy bit where he would say, love is like a frog. And he was like, did an impression of Marshall McLuhan. This was back in the 60s and 70s. Love is like a frog. And the theory is that when you dissect it to figure out how it works, you kill it. So it's a little bit elusive. The idea is to be that bright light of love, to allow that love to unfold, to look into somebody else's eyes, but also look into the future together. It is the invitation to know that love is the willingness to extend ourselves to support the spiritual growth of ourselves or another. It's aspirational. I might not be feeling it now, but I'm claiming it and I'm looking forward to it and I'm intending it and inviting that love in. Because as we practice the practice of being love, of seeing love, of experiencing love, of sharing love, of inviting love, it tends to happen more and more in our lives. And the little bit of love turns into more love, turns into love always. And you deserve love always, because you are already that bright light of divine love. So I can love you so much. So it is.